Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. So, in case anybody's confused, of course, I'm an Astros fan. We are up 2-0 in the third inning. So everything is looking so good so far. Trying to make it 3-0. Sorry to all those Yankee fans. I know a couple of them. Anyways, man. So I did poll you guys to try to see who you guys wanted to see. So the best thing I could probably, get from that was automatically everybody wanted to see Wesley So. It was like 78% was Wesley So. And I did get somebody who suggested an Indian player, an Indian GM, right? So I was trying to make it as interesting as possible. And I went ahead and grabbed a game, Wesley So and Raunak Sadhwani. And this is taken out of the chess.com Rapid Chess Championship. This is week 5, and this is the round 1 game between the two of them. So, as always, for my people that are from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay, kamusta na aking magkaibigan, mabuting pagbati, ingat lagi to you guys. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by and taking a look at my video. Anybody who is coming from India, more specifically coming from, let me see, Maharashtra. It is going to be some Marathi for you. So I will say so let me see. Namaskar. And I will say Dhanyavada. Thank you for coming by and taking a look at my video very much. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move knight to f3. We see d5. We got g3. And we do see the move g6. So we have the King's Indian defense, and we are going into the double Fianchetto variation. So for those of you who are not super familiar with the King's Indian, it is an opening, but is more of a setup. You know, sometimes it's kind of like an opening system, more or less. So there are two different ways that you play the opening. Number one, you basically just play like complete theory of a specific opening. And every move that you make, either whether you're black or white, does depend on what your opponent does out of the opening with their particular moves that they choose. So, you know, if you're playing Queen's Gambit accepted or declined, or like the Catalan or something like that, you are going to be, kind of changing your moves, because you want to be playing as accurately as possible. So that is when you play like a theoretical opening. When you are playing a system or a setup, kind of like a Kali or a, King's Indian defense or attack, or like just the double Fianchetto setup, pretty much what the situation is you are pretty much, for the most part, going to be playing about the same moves, like regardless of what your opponent plays. So you're trying to achieve a specific setup, which is, as far as the King's Indian is concerned, it is bishop here. This pawn is going to be coming up here. You are going to be probably seeing knight b to d2, and you are going to be pushing this e4 pawn. So that is kind of like the dream scenario. Of course, when you get to a certain point, if black is playing very aggressively and they're trying to shut you down, you might not get a chance to achieve exactly what you want. And that's what the opponent is supposed to be trying to do. So we do see the move bishop to g2. We got bishop to g7. We got castles. We got the move e5. So you can see that pretty much the way that white has played, they've given black the entire center. So that, dream case, e5, d5 situation as black, or e4, d4 as white, is what black has been able to achieve. So they are making it as impossible as possible for white to develop and do what they want to do. So we do see the move d3. We got knight to c6. We see the move e4, knight g goes to e7. We got the move knight to c3. And something's going to give in this particular situation. We got pawn taking e4, pawn taking e4, queen taking d1, rook taking d1. And then we do see bishop to g4. And this can be just, a little bit, sad, because, you are pinning this knight down to this rook. So it kind of requires you to play a specific way almost. So the first thing with that is you're going to go bishop to e3. With this knight being pinned down, you are wanting to go knight to d4 and just add as much pressure onto this knight as possible and make your opponent give up the exchange. So we do see bishop taking f3, and this actually is the novelty of the game. It goes in line with what I just got done saying, that basically, you're trying to, put as much pressure on this knight as possible. So when the bishop takes and then the bishop takes on f3, we do see the move knight down to d4, and you're basically telling white, if you want my knight to not be here forever, you're going to have to give up one of your bishops, and that is exactly what we actually see in the game. Bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4. So even though black give up their bishop, they pretty much put white in a situation where they had to give up their bishop as well. So we do see the knight going to b5. And this is actually a pretty legitimate you know, position for white to be in. Not only are you threatening this nice, beautiful fork here, you are looking at recovering your pawn right here and just being up a pawn. So, I mean, something kind of has to give for black. And the best thing to do, as surprising as it looks, is to actually castle queenside. And you are giving up this a7 pawn. You basically are in a situation where, I mean, what pawn am I going to give up, bro? So, I mean, am I going to give up the a7? The c7 with check? Don't do that. Or d4. So, they just decide I'm going to go ahead and give up a7. After knight takes a7, the king goes to b8, and then we do see the knight going back down to b5. We do see the move h5. And this is like somewhat of a critical point in the game. And we see Wesley So actually go h4. But there was a much more aggressive, dynamic way to play this position after we back up. Instead of going to h4, you know, because we're not super worried about this h5 or h4 situation, because, I mean, we're going to be just taken back with one of our pawns. And, I mean, you know, there aren't queens on the board, so the attack isn't as fierce. But one of the definite things that you can do is just, I mean, because you know this king is castled queenside, right? You got your rooks over here. You really want to kind of start opening things up over here, right? So we would be looking at the move a4. And this would make a big difference because if you did see the move c6, you would be seeing knight to a3, but you have already gotten your pawn out. And this pawn is going to be marching up the board. You can push pawn here. This bishop can start to come in. You can maybe have a rook lift going on. So it's really, really nice. You would probably see knight to c6, and then after the move a5, knight to b4, and then the move c3. And, I mean, you are trying to rip things open as much as possible in this particular situation. So that was definitely a very dynamic way to play. But after the move h4, we did see the move c6, like I said, and then we have the knight going down to a3. And this particular way of playing, it just kind of slowed down white's possible attack because now we don't have that pawn that's going up and kind of ripping things open. We really want these two pawns to get out of the way of black's king. So we do see the move king to c7. We got knight up to c4. We got the move b5. The knight comes down to d2. We got rook over to a8. I mean, it's super duper logical because we do have a half open a file. So put a rook on there, homie. We do see the move rook to b3. We got rook down to a4. And I thought this was a very interesting maneuver by black to like bring the rook over here and bring it down. And that's how we're going to kind of protect this pawn because at the moment, you know, we do kind of have this pawn hit. We don't really have a great way of defending it with c5 because it's just going to be gone. So, I mean, this was an interesting play, like I said. So we do have the move a3. We got king down to b6. We got rook a to b1. And we have the move c5. And, you know, like I was saying, you know, the king, you know, just pushing the pawn immediately was going to be gone. So we did make that preparation with going king to b6. We see the move c3. We got knight over to c6. We got pawn taking d4. And this pretty much just trades everything down into not quite as bad of a situation for black. As you can see, black's moves, you know, moving rook over, moving knight down. This was all trained on this square. Like literally black has been waiting on this moment. So we do see knight taking d4, knight taking d4, rook taking d4, rook taking d4, bishop taking d4. And I mean, everything is kind of like all right in the world, except for the fact that black is down a pawn. So black has to be very careful about the way they're playing. They definitely do not want to give up any more pawns for sure. So we do see king going to f1. We see rook over to e8. We got the move b3. Getting this pawn off of a dark square so that we could try to move our rook somewhere. We do have a rook down to e7. We got pawn to a4. King goes to a5. Pawn takes b5. Pawn takes b5. And we got the move bishop down to e2. But you remember before when I was saying that a4 move was like really, really dynamic? Well, it doesn't have quite as much bite in this particular situation because you can see that this king, instead of being way up here, is way, way more active and just penetrating all into the position, especially after king to b4. So it's kind of like, I mean, this king is like sitting on this, you know, one of its like major squares. And this king is like all in black's kitchen, all in white's kitchen. Look at this. Look at all these arrows, bro. So we do see the move a bishop to c4. We got rook over to a7. And then we have a really, really nice idea. And that is rook over to e1. What we are seeing in the future is that we do have a 4-on-3 pawn majority on the king side. So we are looking at pushing the move f4 and creating possibly a passed pawn with creating, you know, a passed pawn on the e file. So we are trying to make sure that we support that with the rook to e1. We got the move f6. We got rook up to e2. We're not worried about this check down here, homie, because we're just going to go king to g2. And we're still pushing f4, homie. So the rook does come to e7, and then we have our very, very desirable f4 pawn move. And then we actually see the move g5. It actually, in this position, was much better just to go king to c3. You really, if you're black, you don't really want to change anything in the position because, like I said, because of this majority over here, you know, you are in a situation where, you know, almost anything you can do can give white a really nice advantage. So going back to what we had in the game, like I said, we did see f4, and then we saw the move g5. We got pawn taking g5, pawn taking g5, and then we have king up to g2. We're trying to get the king in the mix, man. So we do see rook over to g7. We got king up to f3. Pawn takes f4, pawn takes f4. And we got the move h4. And hold on a second, though. We do kind of have a passer over here going on, though. You know, we got to be a little careful about what we doing over here, son. We do have an extra pawn, but, I mean, we got to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to make sure this pawn doesn't reach the promised land, right? So we got the move e5. We got rook down to g3 with check, forcing the king up to e4. And then we do see the move h3. And like I said, man, that black pawn is looking a little bit good, man. It only got 2 little spaces to go. So we're doing okay. The king goes up to f5. We see bishop down to g1, just trying to make sure that we have some extra protection if this pawn decides to move again. We do have the move e6, and we're kind of racing. We got that little pawn race going on. You guys are familiar with that, I'm sure. We got the move h2, homie. So we have actually reached a very critical point in the game that if you want to go ahead and pause the video and see what move Wesley So plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so when I took this poll, you know, one of the other things that was mentioned is trying to get some type of piece sacrifice, right? And that's actually what I saw in this game. So I was pretty happy about it, right? Cool. So I feel like I covered just about all the criteria. Got Wesley So, I got an Indian gem, and I got a sacrifice that I feel like not everybody is going to be understanding why this sacrifice occurred, because you have a bishop and a rook against a bishop and a rook with an extra pawn, right? You are trying to hold your advantage as much as possible, but the most explosive move in the position is actually rook takes h2. So if you found a rook takes h2, you would be absolutely correct, and this is the absolute 100% best move to play in the position because it basically leaves black without a way to defend against the pawn promotion. It might be kind of hard to see. I don't think this is a move that everybody would find, but after you see the follow-ups to the situation, you'll see why it was played. Rook takes h2, bishop takes h2, and then we do have the move e7, which you're thinking probably, wait, can't the rook just come behind like and protect? The 2 things you have to notice about the position is, number 1, this rook cannot come and protect on g8 because of this bishop. Number 2, if you do see the rook go to e3, which is what we actually see in the game, you got the really beautiful, perfect move. Bam! Bishop to e6, and now I have just cut off your rook from the protection of this pawn, and this pawn is queening no matter what you want to do about it, bro. Now, you can go rook takes e6, king takes e6. You're still not getting the pawn on me. It's going to be a queen. So this was an absolutely beautiful ending to the game, and it is actually in this position that Sadhwani does resign the game. And like I said, there is just nothing that you can do. You know, you can always take here, but I mean, there is zero that is protecting this queen, this pawn from queening, and you will have a bishop and a rook against a bishop and a queen. Those aren't the type of odds I want in my life, man. So that is that game. Like I said, it was taken from earlier this year, 2022, Rapid Chess Championship. So it was a really nice game that was played. Hopefully I fulfilled everybody's wishes on there on the poll that I gave. You know, Maraming Salamat aking makaibigan. Dani Yavada, and I will see you guys next time.